Unicast is brought to you by SUMA, the voice of Saskatchewan's urban municipalities. SUMA is proud to represent the urban communities that over 80% of Saskatchewan residents call home. Each season, we discuss issues related to local governance and municipal leadership, like best practices, reconciliation, resources, and more. In this bonus episode, we speak with Trevor Moore about his role as MC at the upcoming 2025 SUMA Convention and Trade Show. Trevor is a neurodivergent husband, father, and entrepreneur who lives life as a mental health advocate, chronic pain warrior, kindness crusader, and overthinker in recovery. As a professional MC, host, speaker, and corporate stand-up comedy magician with 17 years of experience at the microphone, Trevor understands how to steer the rhythm, focus, and feel of any event. His intimate and interactive style, engaging attitude, and refreshing, upbeat persona is sure to entertain guests at this year's convention. Welcome, Trevor. Thank you for joining me for this conversation.
I'm happy to be here. I'm looking forward to connecting face-to-face in the spring when we get up to Saskatoon.
Well, me too. The SUMA Convention and Trade Show draws elected officials and administration from urban municipalities throughout Saskatchewan, and we're looking forward to you joining us as the MC for the event this year in Saskatoon. During convention, we're going to be highlighting members coming together for the first time following the municipal election and celebrating the strength of our communities as part of the urban family. So one of the themes of that is inclusion. So how will you be incorporating the feeling of inclusion throughout convention?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's such an important one for sure. When we look at inclusion, I like to think of sort of the way that I MC or host a conference. I take a little bit of a different approach to it than some people. And I like to use what I call fireside chats. I think the biggest thing with inclusion is that people want to be seen, heard, and understood. And be given that chance to have a voice or that chance to, to be a part of a conversation. And one of the things that I do as an MC and a host, one of my signature pieces is what I call fireside chats. And the fireside chats are sort of my spin or my take on the traditional Q&A, which happens at conferences where you have a speaker and then all of a sudden it goes to this, are there any questions? And it kind of goes, quiet. It's an awkward moment. It's kind of a way we've always ended the keynotes. But as a host, one of the things that I do is what's called a fireside chat. And it's my way of sort of navigating through those Q&As where it's me being on stage. And what happens is at the end of the keynote, the volunteers will bring up 2 chairs, 2 glasses of water or coffee, and 2 microphones, and myself and the keynote speaker will chat, and people sort of can get involved from the floor. They can have questions from the floor. It's kind of like sort of talk show meets Q&A meets live podcast, so to speak, where we kind of take the conversation a little deeper on different levels, and we talk with the audience and back and forth, and I take questions from the floor, and really making sure that we keep the conversation steered towards directions that the audience wants to pull things into, and really sort of being attentive to where the audience wants to go and where their questioning comes. And that's a big part of it for me, is making people comfortable and feeling like they're a part of the event, not just sort of watching the event. Because when they feel like they're a part of it, they're going to be more engaged with questions and going to be more engaged with just the feedback and things that happen. So I like to sort of think of me being the voice of the conference. And I get to sort of bring that voice to the audience and kind of engage people in conversations from the stage, rather than just sort of public address from the stage, intro, exit, announcements. That's a part of an MC's job, but that's the easy part of the job. The real work is in trying to feel like we're meshing the conference with the people and bringing people together. So just through a lot of conversation is one of the ways we sort of put that inclusivity, right? Making sure everybody has an opportunity to have a connection to the stage, whether it's directly to the speakers or whether it's through me or the Q&As or facilitation of panels or those types of things. I really like to be very dynamic and interactive, and that's the biggest thing in terms of making people feel like they're included in a part of the event.
That's wonderful. As you mentioned, that's a great way to help keep people engaged and interested in what's going on the stage instead of feeling like they're separated from it. And I know we're definitely looking forward to the fireside chat that you're going to be having with keynote Pamela Barnum at the end of her keynote presentation. So I can't wait to see where that conversation goes.
Yeah, the fireside chats are very fun. I started doing them a number of years ago because I'm also a speaker. So it was one of those, I didn't like the awkward and sort of inauthentic end to keynotes. We're like, and I'm done. Any questions? And sort of flipping the script and changing the dynamic of those. I've had a conference I did in November, for example. One of the people came up to me after the conference. The one keynote they had seen speak 3 or 4 times, delivering the same keynote that they were there, but they said this one felt like a completely different message, because the fireside chat took us in slightly different directions and got a little more depth on certain portions of the conversation because of the interactive nature of it. So I'm excited to be there. It's one of my favorite parts. It's something I really enjoy doing, and I have a lot of fun with it. And I know the audience is going to love it as well.
Fantastic. I'm pretty sure they're going to love it too. So as you've alluded to already, you have a lot of experience on stage in a variety of capacities. So as a professional MC and speaker to a stand-up comedian and magician. Can you give us a little bit more insight into what delegates can expect from you as the convention MC?
The biggest thing to expect is the unexpected. I look at it from the perspective of, a conference has its own feel. It's its own personality. And my job is to sort of be the voice of that personality and kind of connect with people. And a lot of that is reading the room, reading the audience. My job as the MC and a host is to figure out when the room is too quiet, we got to bring the energy up, or when the room is too loud, too much conversation, we got to bring the energy down, and trying to bring the flow throughout the event. Sometimes that's some of the conversations, the fireside chats. I've been known to pull out some of my magic and comedy out of my routine and run small bits to sort of re-energize the crowd or reconnect and engage and have some fun with it. And my work as a speaker allows me to tie into a lot of these themes that you'll see with keynotes and bring them out because I understand some of the background of what they're delivering as well. So my dynamic background allows me to be dynamic. I always say that I show up at the event armed and dangerous. I've got stuff to do from a speaking side, an MC side, a magic side, a comedy side in my tickle trunk with me. And honestly, I have ideas in terms of what may come out of the bag of tricks and what may not, but really we don't know until we get there and start to have those conversations and really feel the energy of the people, right? My job is to not take over the show. My job is to keep people entertained and engaged, but by the same token, if I've done a great job, I become a little bit invisible in the whole thing, right? If things are flowing smoothly and kind of coming together, I've done my job well. I'm not supposed to be the star of the show. But I am the one that needs to keep people entertained and engaged and on track and on time. And that's kind of my work. I look at using my skill set, obviously from the stage in a bunch of different environments. I view my work as a conference MC and host sort of, I use the analogy of somebody building a brick wall, right? When we look at building a brick wall, what gets credit for the strength at the end is the fact that the wall is made of bricks. And it's these chunks that have come together. The reality is it's not the bricks that make a brick wall strong. It's the mortar that holds the bricks together. And that's what gives the bricks and the wall its strength. If you didn't mortar the bricks together, a toddler could knock over a brick wall. And I look at conferences sort of being the agenda, being the bricks. The conference kind of drops the bricks in, the different speakers, the different breakout sessions, the different, meals and networking times, all the different things. My job is to come in and cement those bricks together. My job is to become maybe the mortar that ties the big chunks together and bring themes in across different days and tie from one speaker to the next and kind of do that stuff. That's sort of where my role is as I'm not responsible for the bricks, but I am responsible for bringing the mortar to the agenda to really lock it all together and thread it tightly together.
It sounds like you come super prepared to do just that. So as you spoke to a little bit there, keeping on the agenda and maintaining timelines is really a major component of having a successful event. What tools do you use to help keep everyone on track?
The biggest thing for me is just that engagement. I mean, when people are engaged, interested, and involved, they're more likely to maintain the timelines. It's when they're not feeling engaged from session to session. Every one of the little networking breaks, the coffee breaks sort of breaks out the steam, and we're trying to rebuild. And if we can connect with the audience just in a general sense so that my announcements are making sense, they're clear, they're up to date, they're informed, and just maintaining some solid structure. I think it's important that when we talk about timelines, we adhere to those timelines. And when people will start to see where they fit into the equation, they generally sort of get on board and follow those timelines when they're clearly directed. But again, a lot of it is just that engagement. If I can make them feel engaged or a part of it, they want to get back in the room and be a part of the next speaker or be a part of the next session. So it's not hard to keep people on track, right? If you can get them feeling like they're a part of the day and they're having fun and they're engaged, they tend to follow those timelines really, really well. Just by being like a part of it, right? At the end of the day, they don't want to be herded like cattle. They want to be a part of this process, right?
From the smallest villages to the largest cities, every day your urban municipality supports you. The water that travels from tap to sewer, the emergency services that keep you safe, the parks, libraries, and rinks that you enjoy, our cities, towns, villages, resort villages, and northern municipalities are urban hubs bringing people together. We are urban. Celebrate your municipality as part of the urban family.
Absolutely. I would agree that engagement piece is such a big component of it, and it really helps the audience keep everything flowing too. So as a neurodivergent husband, father, and entrepreneur who lives life as a mental health advocate, chronic pain warrior, kindness crusader, and overthinker in recovery, how do you incorporate these aspects of your life to help you keep audiences engaged?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is authenticity, right? It allows people to feel that it's not me behind a podium. They can understand the person behind that podium, and through some storytelling and some sharing. And it's great ways to tie in some of the messaging from speakers in some of those sessions, and using my experience to become sort of the relatable figure in the story that people can relate to, right? And my challenge is, as somebody who navigates mental health and lives through chronic pain and is on the autism spectrum, my challenges are not unlike other people's challenges. They're just maybe heightened a little bit. I get a little overwhelmed a little quicker, but I'm able to be relatable and help people understand that the overwhelm of the stuff they're taking in, the information, is normal, and help them break that information down and digest it. So again, it comes back to that connection piece. If I can connect authentically, not just as a guy who has the authority with the stopwatch and the microphone, my job is to connect with them as a person and have conversations. And my job is to be engaged in the coffee lines during these networking breaks, and having conversations with people so that we can create sort of that relatability. And that's my job, is to help the event tell its story, help the speakers tell its story. But every good story has impact from a speaker on a stage when the audience can see themselves in that story, when they can see themselves as a character in that story. And my job is to help people tie those character pieces together for themselves so they can see themselves in some of the stuff that they're hearing and how it's applicable to them, and where it relates to their world.
It sounds like, well, I was looking at your list of other conferences that you've emceed, and it sounds like you have been able to make connections with a lot of those other organizations. I've noticed you've come back several times to a few of those, and it in various sectors. So from a golf championships to Tommy Gunn's Barber's Edge conference and so much more. How will you take those experiences and tailor that so that you can connect to municipal leaders as well?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's connecting on that human level, right? We are there. As I look at so much of my work as a speaker and coach, is I'll use the example of working with competitive athletes and sports teams. I do that a ton at conferences and events as a speaker. And my job is not to connect with them as athletes and players. My job is to connect with them as people. And it's really that sort of human connection that allows me to connect with people in dynamic events and dynamic audiences. The messaging isn't that different from one event to the next. I mean, yes, there are some industry specific components, but when we're talking about the human struggles and the challenges and the things we have with implementing the information, or keeping our head above water during challenging times, these things are very human challenges, and it's not really it doesn't really depend on the audience per se. It's human. We all understand it. So again, my job is just sort of to try to connect with them on a human level, so that the overall theme of the conference isn't separating us from them, right? It's not me and them. We're talking humanity. We're talking about people and how the information impacts us as people, or as employees, or as entrepreneurs, or as community leaders, and really tap into that sort of personal end of it. So, it really comes back to that scenario, right? Just really that authentic, generic or generalized conversation where people feel like they're being seen, they're being heard, and their opinions are being valued. And that's one of the things that I do at the conferences. I really connect with people on that human level. It's often the conversations at the networking gala, or the conversations in the coffee line while we're putting cream and sugar in our coffee at the breaks, where I really pull out that information and get the opportunity to connect with people, so that when we do get back up on stage, I have some background information on the fireside chats, where we want to go, what we're hearing on the floor, what we're hearing with people in the room, and really sort of tying it together. Again, my job isn't really to be me. My job is to be the voice of the event. So I just need to become and humanize that voice and humanize that theme of the conference, and bring that personality forward for people. Not necessarily my personality, but my personality helps that as a part of the process. I think being connectable or relatable is important, but that is my job, is to not necessarily be me. It's to be the voice of that conference agenda, and making sure that people are having their 2 cents in the moments that they need to, and feeling comfortable and informed.
That's wonderful. I really like what you spoke to there about how connection isn't necessarily about who is in the audience. It's about something deeper than that. So I'm very excited to see how that all plays out. And so on Tuesday evening, we'll be hosting our President's Gala event, which is an opportunity for members and staff at the board, everyone to kind of let loose a little bit and enjoy the evening, celebrating long-term service awards for municipal leaders. So without giving too much away, you are going to be emceeing and entertaining during that event. What could audience members expect that evening?
Oh, that evening is going to be a lot of fun. I love sort of the gala reception evenings at conferences. Biggest thing that I want people to be aware of is you're not going to have me standing up there delivering and entertaining for 75 minutes. I get it. People have been listening for days. They've got listening fatigue. This is a moment to celebrate, to share, to have fun. So there'll be a little bit of magic and a little bit of comedy threaded into the evening. We'll have some fun. We'll have some laughs and we'll have some wonder across that scenario, but it's not going to be too heavy and too intense. I get it. People have been listening and they have a conference, a full, time together. I don't want to be stealing all of their brain capacity on that night. They've got people they want to talk to, people they want to celebrate with. They've got their own networking receptions in cocktail lobbies and bars and things like that, which is a big part of a conference as well, as that connecting with your peers. So it'll be a fun night. I'll keep it upbeat. I'll keep it lively. We'll have a little bit of magic and a little bit of comedy. But again, it's not going to take the whole night hostage. I'm very cognizant of the fact of why people are there and of all the listening that they have been and will be doing over the course of the conference. They don't need 75 minutes of me telling jokes up there. At that point in time, I'm not even sure my mom could listen to me for 75 minutes at that point in time. And she listens to me all the time. So I'm not going to steal the thunder of the event. I'm going to be there to enhance it and have some fun and have a couple of good laughs together with the audience.
Wonderful. Well, I'm very much looking forward to what you have in store.
I'm thrilled for it. It's going to be a great time.
It will be. So what is the main thing then that you're hoping you'll leave attendees with following the convention?
If I were to take it in two scenarios, I mean, one, obviously being more familiar with the nuggets of the agenda will help me understand what I'm hoping I can take away or get audience members to take away from there. But from sort of that selfish side, the speaker piece of me, that speaker and coach, I'm hoping that I and the audience take away the importance of us in this system. So many things we look at in this world. The success has so much to do with the mindset and the personal habits and routines of the people delivering the information and putting it together. A lot of times we have these well-laid plans, but we have no gas or energy in the tank to put the work in to make things happen. So I'm hoping that people walk away this conference really inspired. I hope I walk away inspired. I always do in every conference. There's always some great nuggets from speakers to pull away. I'm hoping that I walk away and I'm hoping the audience walks away both inspired, but not overwhelmed. I don't want people walking away from a conference with 7,000 things to do on their task list and overwhelmed to never implement any of it. I'm hoping that I and the audience will walk away with 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 little nuggets that they can chew on that inspire them deeply as people, not just as employees or leaders, right? I want them to look at this from a personal perspective and know, what you bring and the energy you bring to this world matters. It's not always about complex systems and strategies. Sometimes it's the fine little pieces that make it all come together. And that's what I hope people can find in this, is some of the nuggets that help them implement. Because at the end of the day, I think before the internet, we had this belief system that society would be so much better off the more information they have access to. We realize that experience in that experiment has failed. It's not information, right? It's implementation of that information that is the real success. And we have more information at the tip of our fingers on Google or on YouTube. And coming from that stage with speakers and sessions, there is more information than everyone in that audience could even imply their whole life. The key is to help them find ways to implement it in small, digestible steps. And that's an important piece. If I can find that in there, I believe the audience will find that in there. And that's my job, is to kind of live that experience with them and hope that they find some information that they can be inspired, informed, but not overwhelmed. And that's what I hope I take away from it as well.
That's such a great point that you made. I know people can walk away from these big events feeling like they need to make some big changes or take some big steps, but oftentimes it's those small side conversations or those small pieces from an education session where they're like, oh, that makes sense and I could do that easily, that really lead to some of those bigger changes along the way too.
Yeah, it is, right? Like I said, that it's that bricks and mortar. I mean, I've seen conferences that get so focused on the bricks in their agenda that they don't leave any time for networking, or because they feel like that's downtime. It's a waste of time. We want more information. It's like, no, the real gold happens in the coffee line, in the buffet line, all of those types of things. That is where you get to really, connect with people on a deeper level. At the end of the day, when you walk away from conferences, it is about the information you receive from the stage and in the sessions, sure, but I always say it's more to do with the hands that you've shaken, the eyes that you've looked into, and the connections you've made, and you don't get that chance to connect with the speakers often, right? It's usually the other delegates where you're really sort of connecting. So that's where I like to try to create a bit of a connection from the stage to the speakers, to the delegates. But by the same token, the power of a conference is the little stuff. It is that, that late night diagram drawn out on a cocktail napkin in the hotel lobby. It's those conversations at breakfast. It's those moments that kind of happen in the moment that people can really lock into. And that's where the power of these things is those mortared moments. What separates great agendas is, partly who is speaking, but even more so, it's how people are able to process that information with who's speaking. I've seen events loaded with great speakers where there was just no time to take a deep breath. There was no time to catch your breath, no time to network, no time to hand out business cards, to pick people's brains. And those are big pieces. And I think that's just such an important piece of a conference, is that side, right? The soft piece of it. And that is the gold.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I wanted to thank you so much, Trevor, for taking the time to speak with me today. This has been a really engaging conversation, and I'm looking forward to how you bring that energy and that energy of connection to convention as well. I think it's going to be a great time having you guide us through the 2025 SUMA Convention and Trade Show, and that's April 13th to 16th in Saskatoon. Do you have any final comments that you would like to leave our listeners with?
I mean, I guess at the end of the day, those that are coming, I encourage you to make a point of saying hello to me when I'm there and connecting with me, and I will do the same with all of you. And I hope everybody just comes with an open mind and an open heart and ready to connect with others and really be ready to sort of absorb the information and absorb that inspiration that they're going to find in the room. It's going to be a great time. I know that from behind the scenes, being involved in the email threads and the chains, from the organizing side of this, everybody's doing such an amazing job of putting this great conference together. And just show up energized. I know you're never going to catch up on sleep at a conference, so show up energized, show up hydrated, and show up with a clear mind and a clear heart, and you'll have a lot of fun when you're there. Really be open to that opportunity to explore and connect with others, and you'll love the experience. It'll be a great time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Trevor. Looking forward to seeing you there.
I look forward to seeing you there as well. Thank you very much for having me today, Stephanie.
This brings us to the end of another episode of Municast. Thank you for listening in. Stay tuned for more bonus episodes coming your way soon. Starting in March, we will be launching Season 8, where we will be discussing key components of SUMA's core advocacy issues. Is your municipality a SUMA member? Did you know elected officials and staff have access to resources, meeting and webinar recordings, templates, and more through the member portal? Each member municipality has one shared login to the portal. Chat with your administrator or contact the SUMA office for more information.